Welcome to the Write, Publish, Market podcast. If you're a business owner thinking a book would be a great marketing asset for your business, you're in the right place. Maybe you've already committed, even better. I'm your host, Jodi Brandon, book publishing strategist and partner for business owners, CEOs, and entrepreneurs, and 20-plus year veteran of the book publishing industry. On the Write, Publish, Market podcast, in addition to learning from me and other industry experts, you'll hear from other business owners about their experiences as we explore all facets of writing, publishing, and marketing a book that will help your business grow in ways you might not even be dreaming of yet. I'm so glad you're here. Let's dive in. Hey, listeners, welcome to this episode all about staying on track with your book writing project. So you are a busy business owner and this is a big project. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about how you're going to stay on track. Now, note that I am assuming here that you've already done the work to make sure that you have the capacity for this project. If you have not listened to this podcast's episode with Ginny Krause and Ellie Runkles of The Supported CEO, all about capacity, I'm going to link that in the show notes. Check that out. We've also talked before about non-negotiables. Let's make sure that we have accounted for those when we're creating our book writing calendar, our book production schedule, our book launch plans. So I'm assuming that you've already done that work. You've adjusted as needed. If you've needed to, sort of as you got into your project. If you listened to episode 181 of this podcast, you would know that I am in the throes of my book revision. And one of the things I needed to do was adjust my schedule because the research phase took a little bit longer than I thought it was going to. So that prep phase before I actually get to the writing and revising. So that's fine. That's why we call things, it's a working document. It's a working table of contents. It's a working production schedule, et cetera, et cetera. But I've got 3 tips for you today to stay on track with this big project. And honestly, this works for other big projects in our business as well, not just book writing, but obviously that's what we're here to talk about. So number 1, let's set a deadline to finish. Let's set a deadline to finish the writing. Let's set a deadline to launch this thing. Let's not have it be something that is just collecting dust, in the corner of our Google Drive. What does that look like for you? That's going to be really, individualized to you, your schedule, your business, and what else you have going on. Like those non-negotiables we talked about. You might have more non-negotiables in this season than in other seasons, in which case it's going to take you longer to get the manuscript written. You might really want to work with a certain typesetter or a certain cover designer or a certain copy editor, and their availability isn't until later in the year. In which case, you're going to launch that book later in the year if you choose to wait to work with that person. Absolutely fine. Just be aware of what those deadlines are so that you can kind of build out your calendar around them and make sure that you do have an end in sight. You want to make sure that there is an end date on that calendar so that this doesn't become one of those projects that just gets pushed further and further and further down and remains the bottom item on your to-do list, right? So number 1, set a deadline to finish. Piggybacking off of that, number 2, second tip for staying on track is to set, weekly, monthly progress goals and then reward yourself if you meet those goals. And I'm not talking about, maybe a vacation to Europe if you finish chapter 1, but you do want to, keep yourself motivated. So you know what that is for you. It's going to look a little bit different for everybody. If you have not participated in the 30-day, it's meant to be 30-day Ready, Set, Write challenge that I have, I'll link that in the show notes as well. That can really help you set realistic goals as far as your writing schedule and your weekly, progress goals, and then your monthly progress goals based off of that. Hey there, business owner and aspiring or published author. Sorry to interrupt this episode. Just wanted to check in and see if you're subscribed to Coffee and Commas, my email newsletter, where I share behind the scenes, industry info, and much more about writing, publishing, and marketing a book for your business. Sign up at bit.ly/coffee and commas sign up. That's all lowercase. Now back to the show. If these goals are not realistic, these progress goals, then we're going to end up, and one of the things that we're about to talk about with the third tip, you don't want that. You want to make sure that anything you're doing surrounding your book is realistic, because if it's not, you end up, going down a spiral that we don't want to go down. So the third tip, that leads me to the third tip to stay on track with your big project, book or otherwise. And that is to put appointments in your calendar for whatever phase you're in, whether it's writing, whether it's research, whether it's, just working on the book, whether it's revising the book, self-editing, working, book marketing, whatever it is, put that in your calendar as an appointment and honor that appointment. Sometimes that means, putting your rear end in the chair, whether it's in your office or at a coffee shop, your kitchen table, your dining room table, propped up on a laptop, sitting up in bed, wherever it is. You've got to schedule that writing time. You've got to schedule the book time. Once you're done writing, you still need to schedule the time, because otherwise, again, those to-do list items, those tasks they're going to fall by the wayside, right? You're a very busy business owner. I speak from experience here. It's very easy to let things, I'll get to that tomorrow. I've got to deal with this first. I've got to deal with this client issue first, whatever the case may be. But if you don't have those appointments in your calendar, but even more important than having them in there is honoring them, then it's pointless to even put them in there, right? You're not going to be making any progress on your book. Then you're going to start feeling lousy that you're not honoring those commitments. And that is going to send you down a little spiral. And then you're going to self-doubt comes into play. Imposter syndrome comes into play. And then it's easy to say, oh, well, now I didn't work on the book for 2 weeks. I might as well forget it. It's very easy to let mindset kind of take over in a negative way when you're not, honoring those appointments that you're setting. So it really is easy to stay on track if you think of that schedule as a working schedule, number one, but also being realistic as you're setting up each of your tasks along the way. And I encourage you to, it sounds so cliche, but just take the first step. You don't have to see the whole staircase or all of those platitudes. They really sometimes do help with a big project like writing a book, especially if you've never done it before, because that fear of the unknown can be scary for sure. But if you just kind of take it a bit at a time, like one chunk at a time, again, assuming that you have made sure that you have the capacity to do so, then it's easier to stay on track. And hopefully these 3 tips today have helped you. Let me know if you have other tips. I would love to hear about them. And until next time, happy writing, my friends. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Write, Publish, Market podcast. I know just how busy business owners and CEOs' schedules are, and I'm grateful you've taken some time out of yours to spend with me today. If you enjoyed this episode, take a quick screenshot and share it on social to let others know you're listening. Use the hashtag WritePublishMarket to spread the love.